I hope you guys are all okay and all good. Welcome to another video. My name is George. For those of you who don't know, feel free to subscribe down below if you're not already. And this is Darren Charlton, author of Wranglestone. In case it wasn't clear that this is a Wranglestone related video, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really pleased to meet you.
Yeah, I know. Like we've talked a lot on Twitter and
like for the last couple of years, sort of.
And it's weird that we've not actually like physically met in person. This is the first time we've actually met each other. So we're here to talk about Wranglestone, which is Darren's debut novel, which comes out in February the 6th. February the 6th.
Yeah.
Oh my god, so that's like really soon.
Yeah.
In less than a month.
Yeah, a month.
I don't know when this video is going up, but before then, I imagine.
I think it's going out the week.
The week of.
Yeah, as part of the blog tour. I think you're the first thing.
Oh!
is what I've been told.
Well, I'll take it.
I could just push myself to the frame. I'll just slowly edge myself.
I'm just going to sit and talk about this book for 20 minutes.
I'll be more than happy and I'll just keep an eye on.
Just make sure I'm well lit. Okay, so we should start at the very, very beginning and you should tell us a bit about Wranglestone. So tell us what it's about.
Okay. Well, I guess 15 years before the events in the book, there's been an escape program. So following a zombie apocalypse, the entire surviving population of America is given refuge in the national parks of America. So that's where everyone lives. And then in Lake Wranglestone, it's kind of an island community, so everyone lives on islands. So they have tree houses, but obviously they're surrounded by water, so it's very safe. Until winter, when the lake freezes and the dead can cross the ice. So that's kind of like the starting point of the hook for the book. But yeah, it kind of features a boy called Peter, and he's a bit of a homebody, and he's never really set foot onto the mainland to sort of help the community in any way. But through various reasons, he's forced to go onto the mainland to sort of help herd the dead from the shore before the lake freezes over with one of the wranglers, Cooper, and who was always kind of looked at and had lots of crushy feelings throughout their childhood. So they've always been on the lake together growing up, but they've always sort of been apart and never really got to know each other until this, so it kind of kicks it all off. But safe to say that without giving anything away, as they step into the mainland, things just like life are not as they always expect to have been told, and things spin on a dime. And go in different ways.
It's a fantastic book. Like, I've told you this several times over. Like I love it so fiercely, and I've read it more times than I can count. But I've always wanted to ask you this, and this is, where did the initial idea for it come from? Because it's pitched as Brokeback Mountain meets The Walking Dead for a YA audience, which is perfection.
That wasn't my idea.
But like, so where did that conceit originally come from?
The idea of the book itself?
Yeah, the idea of the book itself.
Do you want the honest answer?
Yeah, go.
The honest answer is I met my agent Hannah with a completely different manuscript.
Really?
Yes. That she very bluntly, very quickly, 5 minutes into the meeting said, I really like a lot of that story and I really love your writing, but it's got no commercial prospects whatsoever.
Oh, wow.
And I wouldn't have a clue what to do with it. So that's gone. What else do you have?
Wow.
And I predicted that would happen. You read enough going, you've got to show that you have other ideas as a writer. So all I had was a photograph of a little cabin, chalet on a rock. It's just balanced on a rock, and it's a real cabin in America. And I just brought that picture with the idea that this neighbourhood is safe from the dead until the lake freezes.
Incredible.
And they can cross it. And that's all I had. And she said, if you write that book, I'll sign you.
Unreal. That's amazing.
Which is lovely. But then it was like, can I swear?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Then I was like, that's great. I've got no fucking idea how I wrote that story. And then the next 2 years was about figuring out, because really, before that, I really wasn't writing anything that was that character or plot driven.
Right.
With a sort of high concept. And I just knew, you're stepping into a market. It's not just about you creating art. You're trying to write something that people will want. So I deliberately went in with a hook, but I think it was teaching on things to do with genre and plot much more than I'd done before, which in the end turned out to be the best thing for me. But I didn't have a clue what I was going to do about that when I first started writing it. It's weird because I think looking back, it just looks it feels like it's made sense that it should always have been this book.
Yeah.
And I think because the title kind of came at once, it suddenly felt like it had an inevitability about it, which of course is what you hope from good stories, that it feels like that. But of course it just wasn't.
Yeah.
Because there's always those stories that are consigned to the bin. And,
of course.
And that's how it was with this one. So I would like to say I was standing on a mountain in the middle of Utah and I had this idea. But no, I just thought I need to come up with something with a hook that would catch your ear, because I haven't written it, and that's how it was.
That's unreal. But that's I mean, but like I'm glad you said that, because that kind of, the fact that you went there with a picture and an idea and that kind of stemmed into what is this is quite incredible. And it took you 2 years to put that together.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I think it's safe to say that the first draft was really in poor shape. And even now I'm quite coy to talk about things that weren't in place at the beginning in that first draft. But yeah, I think it's pointless trying to sort of create a mythology around yourself as a writer. It's a really, I was new, I was making the same mistakes when I met Hannah over and over, and she just really honed the mechanisms of storytelling well, needing, those things that make people want to keep reading, which is that you fall in love with a character and you're worried for them if something goes wrong. And although I've got a lot better at plotting in advance now, this kind of was honed through constant editing and redrafting rather than knowing it all schematically beforehand. So it's got there through a lot of willpower and nurturing by Hannah, who has just been, a mentor as much as anything else. So, but yeah, it's it just wasn't a done thing when I was setting out on it.
So you mentioned Hannah Shepherd, your agent, and you mentioned that it was finding that craft and the way of writing a story and characters that people can really root for. So your main character is Peter, who I love. He loved him the second I started reading about him, because he's this sweet and innocent boy who is in such a brutal world. So where did he come from? Why Peter in this world?
I think there's elements of me when I was a lot younger in that. I think I was always aware when I was younger, that thing of just, and I make there's a lot in the book about that sense of being in a man's world and the way in which men operate and maybe don't convey emotions and talk about feelings. And although Peter's dad in the book is really lovely.
I mean, that was when I was looking through it on my way here, because I wanted to make sure it was all freshly in my head. That was something that I'd maybe not picked up on as strongly the first time round, but reading it again and seeing that he understands Peter in a way that this world doesn't seem to. And I feel like, I could be talking out of my arse here. It's not a relationship that you see all that often. A gay son and the dad, you don't often see that, and I think that was a really lovely touch to have in there as well, because you don't.
Thank you. I think
really nice.
It was really, just as much as the word zombie doesn't exist in the book and the word gay doesn't exist in the book, there were some conscious decisions in terms of it not being a coming out story. Peter and Cooper, neither of them are questioning who they are. In terms of their sexuality, they're not discovering that, they're not coming out to anyone through the course of the book. So that was a conscious decision, and I think then the same was having really just a very easy relationship with the dad. Was just it sort of was quite organic because it kind of came out that way, but it was a conscious decision to not explore issues with your parents to do with your sexuality. And I think if the book has had any criticism, it's that, it's a pretty blue collar community in America. And so I think some people said they're all quite okay with the two boys, to the point that would that be the case? And again, it's just a really conscious decision that it's not that I didn't think that there would be characters that would have issues. I'm just making a decision to put something out in the world that just hasn't got a space for that.
But it was just really nice because even when he's sat talking to Becky, it's just that thing of how do you know someone likes you? And it's just, and it's never oh, you and Cooper, what's that? That's weird. It's all just stuff. It's just a thing. And it's just really nice to not have, I don't know, you don't notice that it's there until it's not there.
Oh, Yeah,
like
I like that.
Like until like that issue of that thing that happens when you mention your partner. And you mentioned your partner is male, and there's that sudden moment where you see the recognition in someone's eyes, and they have to kind of realign themselves as they realise like what's happened. It's a world without that, which is, I think it adds to the book, and it means that you're not focusing on this coming of age, discovering who they are thing. You're focusing on the fact that there are zombies. They're going to come across the lake and kill everybody.
And the plot is going to be concerned about a whole lot of other stuff, and not that stuff. And I think again, it all goes into what became very conscious decisions around, and it's not because I'm not saying there isn't a place for coming out stories, or issue-based stories. It was just that just wasn't what I wanted to do. All I wanted was there to be, I think it's Charlie, not me, that coined this, just casual inclusion. They just happen to be that. And it's just not the focus of the story. And not because I'm saying that the community in this dystopic society has all evolved from that, because through events in the book, they haven't. Yeah. But it really was just that conscious decision around not wanting to explore those things, and then put something out in the world that hopefully a teenager will write, and they're just having... It's, the two gay boys and they're having a story, and that story is untraditionally got nothing to do with their sexuality. And
that's what fascinates
me. Just as
me
the Hunger Games has got nothing to do with being heterosexual.
Exactly, like that's the thing that fascinated me about it so much, is that it was like coming out books are still needed in this day and age, and I'll fight anyone who tells me otherwise. Yes. But you also need books like this, where you pick up this book that is about a zombie apocalypse or a zombie dystopian event, and you're reading it and the characters just happen to be gay. It's not about that. And
to me, that's really political.
Yeah, so much.
I'm not writing a political important novel, but to me, that is really a political thing. They're not asking to be included. No, they just are.
They already are.
So I think, and by the same token, that's kind of what I want from the book. It's not asking for your permission. Yeah, they just are.
So you've mentioned a second book. So you're working on what is a sequel to Wranglestone. How's that going? Because I need it.
Bless you. It's been hard. Yeah. It's been hard, and I think again it's really difficult to talk about it because we're talking in this way before the book comes out, and we're assuming that anyone watching this won't have read it yet. But I'm trying to be brave with it. I think I've made a real pact to not repeat myself. I think it would have been, there were sort of some ideas where I perhaps got paranoid that if people just wanted the sort of genre aspects, I could kind of do the story again, just bigger and, and throw in more sort of antagonists. But I just knew that I really wanted it to be part two and a continuation of the first, so that when put together, it's one story. Yeah. And I just thought, if I'm going to do that, I just need to be brave enough to not... Because I think the thing is that certain things, like trying to do a scene that's got lots of suspense or horror, or really pull the rug and shock you, I found it really difficult to try and get that. So it'd be very easy, having learned some of the techniques, to go, I'm just going to do all of that again. Because now I've got that in my toolbox. Yeah. But I want to tell a different story. I want to take it in the direction that the book ends on, and then it goes on to explore that more. So how does this process, working on the second one, differ to working on the first one? Which obviously, from what I now know, was from nothing. Like it wasn't even... Obviously everything comes from nothing, but like as in, it was... On one level it was easier because I've pretty much, and I've never done this before, I've done a chapter by chapter synopsis for the whole book. The danger with that is that I've then lost some love because I wasn't exploring. I found that I was having a lot of discoveries writing the synopsis, whereas most of the time we hate writing the synopsis, and we don't do it until after. But actually I found that I was making discoveries then, and then the downside was that I wasn't having them in the moment of writing the book. But you can lose a lot of time making discoveries through drafting when you realise you've taken a wrong turn and then need to scrap stuff. And I think because I was under contract for the second book, I felt I had a professional responsibility to be really structured. Yeah. But I'd already started writing when I suddenly had a bit of a light bulb moment about what I really wanted to talk about. And again, I thought, it's very traditional to concern yourself with what the cure might be in zombie narratives.
Yes.
And I immediately sort of abandoned that, going, what is it I want to sort of say? So I think all I can say is that it's still going to be very focused on the dead, and it's looking at why they're there. Why did that apocalypse happen? Why did they come? You know, and what was that for? Why are these things that are a version of us, a sort of monstrous version of us, kind of stalking the earth? And what if anything can we learn from that? So it's kind of really making sure that it doesn't move away from them still, and focuses on that. I think the first one I threw a lot in. You know, there's a mystery, there's a bit of a whodunit, there's horror, there's, you know, it's a wilderness adventure, it's got elements of the Western in there. And I sort of loved it being a melting pot. And some of those then meant you had nice hooks to pull it through. I suppose I'm trying to get sort of braver, and where the book ends is in a very specific space. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
And I want to continue with that rather than go backwards, because I get scared that might be either too serious or it might get boring or, you know. It's very difficult without talking in specifics.
Yes. With that in mind, I always ask this whenever I interview an author, because I do my writing vlogs and I talk about writing a lot as a process. So what writing tips would you have for anyone out there who is a writer?
It just happened that my natural mode or my style, and maybe the types of things that I like to explore, and you know, I want my characters to think about stuff a lot, and you know, and I want to be able to sort of have these moments where they think about, you know, things in the world, and Cooper's obviously wants to tell Peter a lot about the world that he's not experiencing beyond the lake, because he's just looking at it from the islands as scenery, and
that's one of my favourite bits, when he says that it's all scenery, and I really like that moment as kind of the two of them connecting. The things that they both love, that's an overlap. They both love looking at the world, but Cooper can show Peter this bigger expanse.
And I think that there are things like that, like when they go onto the plains to herd the dead from the lake, and they go out on the plains sort of near the Sharp-Toothed Mountains, and there's just that sense of feeling the world as a planet. And I really had that sensation. It was a very odd thing when I first experienced it in America, when I think things were just on a completely different scale, that it was almost sort of bewildering that it stopped being scenery or even just being in wilderness. It was that almost alienating, bizarre feeling of that we're actually just on a planet. And I knew I couldn't explore all of those, just those little bits that aren't to do with story, but I couldn't explore some of that necessarily in younger, and it just naturally. So I think, going back to your question, I think I would probably discourage people from thinking what it is that they want to be, and I think it's just finding what your fit is. And I think I just naturally got driven towards this lane that gets called in our market young adult. It's just because the way in which I naturally write just seemed to then be there, and also as well wanting to write teenage characters. But I didn't consciously make that decision. I think the minute I moved away from thinking I want to be that type of writer, and Philip Pullman I think says something really lovely about really paying attention to what your proclivities are, because you can't get away with what your stuff is. And it's no mistake, I think, with this book that it is just a real mashup of all my stuff. You know, I love hiking and camping, and obviously I've spent quite a bit of time in the national parks in America, but I tried to go hiking every year in Chamonix and Mont Blanc. So there's that. I'm also gay. I also love cinema, and there's a few kind of Easter eggs in there about cinema, and I love genre, and it's just everything. And the minute I thought I can get away with including that and that will make a book, then my writing started to go somewhere. So I think it's just really interesting that I've just got bits of everything about me in the book, and somehow by a miracle they don't seem disparate. And like, you know, that common mistake that we all make when we're writing stories, that we're trying to tell 100 stories at once, you know, but actually it's just become, you know, the stuff of the book. And I guess it's my DNA. And so I would just encourage people to be really aware of what their stuff is and what they are and who they are, and don't abandon that. Again, you know, it didn't come at first to me that I should be writing about boys that were like each other or there being romance. And again, that's still that conditioning that we shouldn't naturally be thinking about that, or it's not marketable.
Yeah.
Because obviously the world that we get mirrored back is heterosexual. So again, it was Hannah that Hannah's going, commit to that. Just do that, have that love story. And that just absolutely was so liberating. And then I just discovered that I had so much, just all of those feelings and those pangs in the tummy and that slightly obsessive thing when we really are crushing on someone. It was a joy to reconnect with all of that stuff. But I'd quashed all of that on subconscious level because it's still that sense of a publisher won't pick that up.
Yeah.
Or somebody in a bookshop won't pick that up. And I think the minute I let go all of that and realised this is my bag, this is who I am, and I'm going to bung it all in thereabouts, and I can't always do that, but on this one I sort of just threw it all in. It's kind of, and I guess that's the reason why I'm most happy that this is my book and others got rejected flat, because it feels like it's me and I'm putting something of myself out in the world and in a sort of nice, vulnerable sort of space, but comfortably sort of vulnerable. And I would encourage people, that's what I would say. This has been a long preamble.
Oh my God, it's great though. I'm loving it.
I would encourage people to be really vulnerable, because at first you're just writing for yourself and not showing anyone.
Yeah.
And I think just as much as you should dance like no one's watching, you really do need to start writing like no one's watching and be vulnerable to it, because then I think you might just begin to get something going.
I think that's a fab tip. I really do. Like, write like no one's reading.
And be vulnerable to yourself, I think.
Yeah, allow yourself to open up.
Yeah, because the chances are, you know, someone else will just have that little moment that go, oh, you know, that's all we want in anything, whether it's comedy or music or art. That moment we go, I get that. It's like that person's done that just for me.
Yeah.
And that's that gorgeous exchange in, you know, in art or storytelling or whatever it is, where you're saying something and then you're searching for something that feels true, because then you just hope that another person goes, oh, I've had that.
Yeah.
And those are lovely moments when you're reading or watching a film where you go, oh, I really get that, I've had that too. And I think that's a nice feeling, but I think you need to just, be open to yourself to start thinking like that.
I think that's a really nice place to end. So that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Wranglestone by Darren Charlton comes out on the 6th of February, which is mega soon. I will leave all links in the description box below to Goodreads and all pre-ordery type things, or purchase links as they might be by the time this goes live, or by the time you're watching. Hi. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, don't forget to put a thumb in it and subscribe down below if you want to see more. Go and click on the links in the description and find out more about this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful book. Yeah, that's the end. So now we just have to say bye. Okay. So let's say bye together.
He's so done that bit before.
Oh God, yeah, over and over. She's a pro, an old pro. So just say bye with me to the camera.
Okay, all right.
1, 2, 3. Bye.